Dell Technologies and AMD present the Cybersecurity Tapes.
Hi, I'm Steve Keniston.
And I'm Samir Shah. Steve and I are both cybersecurity specialists with Dell, and we're always looking for better ways to tell the cybersecurity story.
Which changes every day, and AI is only accelerating things. It's hard to keep up.
Which is exactly why we started doing the cybersecurity tapes.
It's a totally different approach. These aren't just talking heads or white papers dealing with a single capability, but fictionalized stories designed to humanize these threats and put them into real-life context for you to learn from.
In these stories, we investigate what happened, what went wrong, and the best way to address the challenges.
Samir and I will be back to discuss how this story stacks up against the reality of the modern cybersecurity landscape.
Without further ado, roll the tape.
The incidents portrayed in this episode of the Cybersecurity Tapes are fictitious. No identification with any persons, places, companies, or products is intended or should be inferred. In the last episode of the Cybersecurity Tapes, Maria, a cybersecurity consultant, was given a new assignment to investigate a mysterious cyber attack at TechTown, a large brick-and-mortar retail chain. Meanwhile, the perpetrators behind the attack, whose original goal was simply to get a good deal on a hot new gaming console, and carried out the attack by taking advantage of third-party hardware, slowly realized there may be a bigger fish to catch.
Quintain Innovations IT Help Desk, this is Mike. How can I help?
Hey man, it's Carter.
Why are you calling this number? They record these calls for quality assurance.
You didn't pick up your cell?
I'm at work.
Which is why I called your work number. Look, I'm sorry, I really need to... Wait, I'm getting a call. Oh, it's you. Hey Mike, I just wanted to let you know someone from TechTown called me just now to ask me questions about, you know...
What kind of questions?
They've caught on,
Caught on to what?
you know...
Is there anything you would like to say to me that does not involve a confession?
Yeah, I just shipped off the last shipment, so there are no more shipments in the apartment, and I want it to stay that way.
That's how it is now. Phase 1 is over. That's all behind us.
Please.
Phase 2, that's our next objective. The AI, since last night, 7 new passwords hit, 7 new accounts. Exciting times to be alive.
January 18th, 8:04 a.m. It's only day 2 of this assignment, and I feel 3 days behind. Let's run down the usual suspects. Social engineering leads the pack in almost every category. The cashier is someone to keep an eye on, but no evidence of any malware, which is what you almost always find on the other end of a social engineering attack. AI bots are everywhere now. I don't think that's this, but you have to at least consider AI as a possibility for literally everything you look at or listen to these days. There's always good old brute force. Credential stuffing uses AI to cycle through passwords at massive scale until you eventually strike gold. That one's still at the top of my list, but no fraudulent charges reported, no anomalies in the system logs. Evidence is what makes a forensic analysis a forensic analysis. Without it, we're just spitballing. I'm just spitballing. To myself. It's just you and me, voice notes app. The app. What about a business logic attack? Hackers exploit flaws in an app to manipulate the legitimate functions of the app so malicious activity can look like any other totally normal user interaction. The next place to look is in their mobile app. James, good morning. I think I might have just had a breakthrough.
Oh, we had a breakthrough, all right.
Hold on, Samir, wait a second. Before we really find out what this breakthrough was, can we talk about and maybe run down all the possibilities here? I mean, it's a lot. I mean, you can actually hear Maria trying to figure out where to start, which way to go. It all becomes really overwhelming if you're thinking about how to process this stuff.
I think it can be. And I think anytime you're in a crisis situation, which is what a cyber attack is, there's a lot of pressure to figure things out quickly. Hopefully, you've got tools in place that can help get the process started. So, detection and response, you can go back and look at logs, do some auditing, see where there might be some anomalies. And ultimately, the biggest thing is having all of those processes and plans in place in your incident recovery plan before anything happens. So that plan was put in place, it's been practiced, it's been kept up to date, and everybody knows exactly what they're going to do with regards to forensics, because you can't block it and prevent it from getting bigger if you don't know what happened.
Let's dive back in and figure out what this breakthrough really is all about.
I just got this voicemail. You need to hear this.
Hello, my name is Jessie McDonald, and I'm calling from Quintain Innovations. I got your number from my boss, Kit Morris. It's on a list of our partners I've been asked to notify strictly as a courtesy. Everything is fine and still very much under investigation. There's just a developing situation here involving one of our hardware products. Specifically, I want to get this right, the KB40 Smart Beacon. TechTown is on our list of partners with that model deployed. Again, this is strictly a courtesy call. The incident under investigation involves a partner completely unassociated with TechTown. And at this time, we believe that organization to be at fault. So, that said, while the investigation is in progress, we recommend you unplug any Quintain KB40 beacons you may have in service and disable any associated APIs from TechTown's tech stack until we have a patch for whatever this is. Not that you need it. Again, this is strictly a courtesy call. If you want to give me a call back, my number is, actually, let me give you Kit's number. Contact Kit Morris at 555-704.
I already tried calling back. Voicemail. So, what do you think? How should we respond?
It's not my decision to make, but I'd take Jesse's advice and stop using those beacons immediately and pull any documentation you have regarding Quintain's API. I'd probably also close up shop, take the site offline, lock down your network until we have more information, but I know that's a lot easier said than done.
Way ahead of you. We took techtown.com offline around 7:30 this morning.
It's the right move. I know that must hurt.
It hurts about $10,000 a minute.
Ouch. What about the beacons? Are those disconnected from the local networks?
That's in progress already.
I'm on my way in. Be there in 20 minutes, or I guess in about $200,000. Wow, when you say it like that. See if we can get Jesse back on the line. I have a hunch the boss isn't going to call you back anytime soon.
I have that same hunch. See you soon.
Oh, you're still recording. Great. You got all that. To summarize, we finally got a workable theory. It was a business logic attack that came in through a third party, which means there are now 2 different IT teams at odds in the case. So prepare for the blame game.
Here we are, Samir. Back to the blame game, just like we talked about in part 1 of this story. The blame is being passed around inside the company at TechTown, and now there's another company involved, a third-party vendor. And that's something we talk to a lot of customers about, paying attention to how is that third-party security policies aligned to yours, because you're only as good as your weakest link.
Yeah, I think that's true, but I do want to differentiate something, which is the blame game comes across to me as finger pointing and looking for a scapegoat that can absorb all of the culpability. But that's different in my mind than identifying where the attack came in from, or if there even was, in this case, a third party that maybe didn't do everything they were supposed to do or weren't as secure. That hits on a lot of things like supply chain security, and hopefully we're catching problems like that much earlier in the process. But the blame game is never helpful, but identifying root causes and potential entities with substandard security processes, that is important, and that is something they should be looking at.
I know as a company, you never want security incidents blamed on you or look like you have bad security. But if you think it might be yours, you need to take ownership. And the sooner you start planning to help resolve the issue, the better the outcome.
Totally agreed. Everything you said, I think, is spot on. The partners should be taking the approach of, hey, we're all victims here, but going forward, you could do XYZ better if that's what they find. This comes back to an old analogy that I've said many times, which is if I choose to wear my fanciest, most expensive watch and jewelry in the worst part of town, that still doesn't give someone the right to rob me, but it probably wasn't the smartest decision either. So let's make smart decisions, but let's remember that we're ultimately victims of cyber attacks. That's why they're called attacks.
I'm not blaming anyone. It's clearly their fault.
Who's at fault gets tricky in situations like this. Even if it was Quintain's hardware that had a little window big enough for the hackers to fit through, they weren't the ones that opened it.
A business logic attack does make perfect sense. Although in this context, business logic sounds like an oxymoron.
After we get past this mess, I'll put together some recs for new tools out there that are designed to spot these types of attacks.
Why weren't those tools part of the plan you sold us on before?
There are literally 500,000 new pieces of malware discovered every day. In all likelihood, I'll need to recommend a newer tool to you next year after the hackers get their hands on the first tool and learn its weaknesses. You're doing everything right. It's the goalposts that just keep moving.
I'm not blaming you either. I'm sorry. We just got the first report of a customer's identity being stolen this morning, and the finger points at us. I'm just bracing myself because I think our private matter here has officially become a big public ordeal.
The compromised data? I assume it was one of the customers who was sent the promo code?
That better be Quintain. Yep, this is James Coffey.
Hello, Mr. Coffee. This is Jesse McDonald. I'm returning your call.
I'm glad to hear from you. I got your message about the developing situation with the KB40 beacons. I have an advisor here with me, Maria.
Hi, Jesse. If it's okay with you, I'd like to record this conversation.
I guess so. Why?
Per your recommendation, Jesse, we have discontinued the use of all Quintain-issued KB40 beacons, like you instructed, but we're still in the dark here. Meanwhile, our online store is down, and the CEO booked me for a meeting in 59 minutes. I'm guessing to chew me out, so as you can imagine, we're curious about what's going on over there.
Let me transfer you to my boss, Kit Morris.
We left a voicemail for Kit already, and we don't really have time to wait for a callback.
Time is money.
I suspect we aren't the only one of your clients calling about this today.
You are not. What sort of unusual activity?
Promo codes we believe to be fake were sent to customers' mobile apps, but only to customers that were inside a tech town that had KB40 location beacons in operation at the time. It was a promotion. You might have seen the commercials. Bummer, man. I guess you had to be there.
I see. Have you detected any malware? Has any private data been accessed or encrypted? How do you know the promo codes were fake?
We've already been down those roads. We know of at least one customer so far whose data has been compromised, and it all points back to you.
What sort of advisor are you, Maria? Do I need to contact our legal team?
I'm a cybersecurity consultant, not a lawyer. But probably, yeah, you should.
Huh. Well, you didn't hear this from me, but the issue doesn't seem to be in the hardware. Rather, the API that syncs the hardware with the third-party app.
After we put out this fire, give me a call. James and I were just talking about new tools to defend against attacks on IoT devices. Things like secure boot, memory encryption, and shadow stacks are actually already being built into AMD's EPYC processors. It's possible you may already have access to some of these tools and just not taking advantage of them. See? I told you I was a cybersecurity consultant.
We talk a lot about the three practice areas that are important to Dell: reducing the attack surface, detection and response, and recovery. And the attack surface is really the key thing for stopping those attacks from getting through. And IoT only broadens that attack surface. And with all these devices becoming more and more popular, your attack surface in any organization is just getting much, much broader. And then what I like about what Maria says is she's bringing up specific tools to kind of help you maybe address some of this. And some of this stuff is built into tools already, or things that the organization might already use, much like what Dell does.
Yeah, our native edge platform is constructed around zero trust principles. And that team very much stresses extending zero trust principles to the edge. So we want to make sure that we have tight controls around access and identity management. In addition to that, we want to make sure that our managed detection and response, or detection and response platform, extends to cover all of the edge properties and all the edge tools. And then the last thing is, by definition, the edge is going to be transferring data from the edge back to the central data center. And we want to make sure that we have good encryption in place for data in transit.
Okay, back to this fire. Do you have any indication yet as to how much access someone could get from whatever vulnerability this issue turns out to be?
Right now, we just want to get our store back online and mitigate any more fallout. We can't go back and undo what's been done, but we're losing money here as we speak.
I hear you. I'd run a check on your internal network health before and after doing this. But as long as the API is stripped out of the app, the threat should be too.
Our IT team is doing exactly that right now, and store managers have been instructed to disconnect any Quintain hardware.
Perfect. As soon as I have any more information on a security patch.
That won't be necessary. For the time being, we have no plan to redeploy the beacons.
I understand. So, this is it, then?
Almost. What can you tell us about the other incident? The one you're investigating?
It's not a company at all like TechTown. They were using our beacons to track employee access to their corporate offices, until it was discovered that their activity logs were being manipulated. Not quite the efficiency increase management had hoped for.
That's business logic for you.
Data security is even more important in the era of AI. As the use of digitization, cloud computing, AI, and other emerging technologies fuel the growth of data, the need for advanced security measures becomes even more pressing. The heightened need for security is further amplified by the increased global emphasis on privacy regulations and the severe penalties for breaches, highlighting the unparalleled value of data amid rising security risks. Built in at the silicon level, AMD Infinity Guard offers the advanced capabilities required to defend against international and external threats and help keep your data safe.
Okay, January 19th. Mission complete. Let's wrap this up. Fortunately for TechTown, our hackers seemed more interested in games than a payday. Or at least they were fortunate we were able to shut it down before too much damage was done. Damage, though, is definitely relative in these situations. It cost a lot for TechTown. A lot. But it could have been 10 times worse, so if you think about it, they kind of got a huge discount. Along with my report, I submitted recommendations for updates to close some security gaps in their network. Note to self, set a reminder to follow up on that, and the retainer. No word yet on who was behind it, not by the time I left. I'm used to that, though. I get to learn all the ins and outs of a cybercrime scene, but rarely do I ever get to see anyone actually brought to justice. Finding people isn't my job. That's for other detectives to figure out. Let's hope they do.
Wicked Wizard, fight!
So, now that Quentin fired you, what's the plan?
Quintain. And they didn't fire me, they went under. My plan right now is to see how long the unemployment checks last. After that, who knows? But since you brought it up, I am kicking around a new idea.
Hold that thought while I do this.
Looks like someone's been practicing.
Carter Dominguez, this is the police. Open up.
You want to answer that?
This episode of the Cybersecurity Tapes was produced by Dell Technologies and AMD. The executive producers were Steve Keniston and Samir Shah. It was written by Steve Keniston, Samir Shah, Bradley Parrott, and Mike Wiebe. Directed by Bradley Parrott. Featuring performances by Danu Uribe, Bruce Nozick, Max Hawksford, Shelley Knight, Mike Wiebe, and Avery Moore. Sound design by Andy Slater. If you enjoyed this episode of the Cybersecurity Tapes, please like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Or visit thecybersecuritytapes.com to learn more.